Hi, I'm Jeremy Rowe. I've been in the financial service industry for 26 years. I'm a financial planner and expert witness. I started in financial services as a pensions administrator and then worked my way into more client facing roles. I have worked for some of the world's largest companies, both in the banking sector and insurance companies, as well as having formerly been a discretionary investment manager. Like many people, I kind of fell into the world of finance. It wasn't something that I chose to do as such. Found myself in a job after university and found that I was just quite good at the financial service side of things. I found the areas that a lot of people find terribly complex and confusing reasonably straightforward. And the further I got into it, the more I realized I was quite good at it and could explain it to people in layman's terms. As a result, I've ended up specializing in a number of areas, including pensions and divorce and later life planning. The challenges faced by a financial planner are many. First of all, you've got to look at the situation with regard to taxation, which is constantly changing, legislation, which is constantly changing, and the markets, which are constantly changing. So you've got those three things, and as a result, as a financial planner, we're required to keep our license to practice to do 35 hours of continuing professional development every year, which is actually more than most solicitors are required to do. And in any given year, I will typically do somewhere in the region of about 100 hours of continuing professional development to make sure that I am on top of those changes in markets, legislation, economics. Where do we think things are going? Because what people are often asking is for a crystal ball, and unfortunately, they don't exist, and it becomes very difficult to try and plan things where you're in a constantly changing marketplace. The most rewarding part of the job being a financial planner is helping people achieve their objectives. Very often, when you speak to people about what their financial objectives are, people won't really have an idea about what it is that is being asked. And I tend to describe myself as an expert guide. If you consider the world of finance as being trying to get from A to B on a map, very often you'll find that people don't know where they are at the moment or don't know where they're trying to get to. And a lot of the job is actually helping people understand where they are now, helping people get the focus to decide what it is that they want to achieve, and then working out what the best route is between those two things. As I say, it's very difficult to plan for somebody if you don't know what they're trying to achieve. If you aim for nothing, then you hit nothing. For me, after many years in the financial service industry, it felt very much like a logical progression. I've got a lot of experience, both technically and just the length of time I've been in the industry. I also went through a divorce in 2010. So the pensions in divorce side of things became very, very clear to me just how hard it was to actually navigate the difficulties at an emotionally charged period of time. You're trying to understand terribly technical areas and work out what the right thing to do is. And also, my father a few years ago was very unwell. And as soon as you start looking into the care sector, you realize that it's entirely disjointed and that there is no real connection between the NHS and the finances and the local authority. And as a result, people find it incredibly difficult to navigate. And these are things where there is a really profound effect on people's lives, and it should, to my mind, be easier for people to understand. And in a lot of ways, that's sort of my role, is to act as a translator to say these are your problems and these are the potential solutions, and then agree those with the client. So that's really my inspiration, was my own personal experiences and how difficult I found it, even being somebody with 15 years experience at the time. I think the most rewarding part of being an expert witness is helping people to understand what they're trying to achieve. Where you're dealing with pensions in divorce, it's very often the case that it's very emotionally charged, and by having an expert involved helps lower the temperature of any discussions around the pensions. And that can turn what might otherwise be quite an acrimonious divorce into something that's an awful lot more easy to deal with. Same is true where you've got somebody who has a family member who is going into care. You've got enough emotional issues going on without having to try and roll your sleeves up and understand the technicalities of how all of these things work. And part of what I think I enjoy about being an expert witness is that it is continually challenging from a technical point of view. You really need to understand the market that you're working in so that you can explain to people what their options are, what the problems are, and if there are no solutions, explain that in layman's terms. I think probably the thing that I get the most out of in my career, as I've said, is helping people. There are situations that have occurred in the past where people have had absolutely no way out, and I've managed to achieve the impossible. I've had situations where people have been very much struggling financially and have been able to help them out. But at the same time, given my degrees in psychology, I've realized that those people have also got mental health issues as a result of having struggled with finances for so long. And just signposting those things and trying to help people is really very rewarding. There are a number of things. You need to be detail orientated because very often when you're instructed, you'll get into an awful lot of technical detail. You need to be very understanding of where clients are when you're actually being instructed because these are real life issues for real people. It's not just a technicality that you're going through a load of paperwork and you're coming up with an answer which is maths. It very often is the case that you're trying to provide things to people in such a way that they can understand it, which quite often with pension in divorce cases, because pensions are unnecessarily complicated, it is very important. And I also think it's really important to be ethical. And that is to say to people, if what they're trying to achieve is not achievable, or you think they're trying to pull a bit of a fast one, that's not okay. Particularly as most of the time I'm instructed as a single joint expert, it's very important that all parties are aware of all of the conversations that are going on. Everything is above board, and that's really very important. I would say the most important skill for being an expert witness and a financial planner is communication. You need to be able to communicate with people on their level. People have very differing levels of knowledge and understanding of the financial markets, and it needs to be communicated to them in a way that they understand. That's not to say that you're treating people like idiots or doing things on a Janet and John basis. But equally, it's important that people understand. So checking in that, making sure that people do understand what is being recommended to them is absolutely critical. Additionally, you'll quite often hear it referred to as the financial service industry. And in my experience, there's often too much emphasis placed on the finance and not enough on the service. It is a service industry. People are paying for a service. The finance is the product. And as long as you are doing what you can to make sure that people understand that you are acting in their best interests, they will usually be very happy with the service that they receive. My goals for the future are to be a better advisor, continue to get more qualifications, and to continue to challenge myself. I've spent 26 years in the industry, and there's still an enormous amount of things that I don't know or that I don't come across often enough. And those are interesting to me because of their novelty factor. And as soon as I'm no longer challenging myself, I think I need to move on and do something different.